So today I will be going over the RBPM communication with industry throughout our IQA process. I will provide an update on communication enhancements under GDUFA 2. I will also provide an overview of the ANDA assessment timeline and identify when communications may occur. I will also highlight important points for communications with OPQ. So communication during the assessment, what is new or has changed? OPQ can now request additional information in either an information request letter or a discipline review letter. Multiple IRs and DRLs can be issued in one GDUFA cycle. Information request letters can be issued by a discipline or a subdiscipline. It's primarily used to request additional information or clarification needed to continue the assessment. It can be issued as early as once filing is found acceptable, and it will usually include a requested response due date. Most of the time, information requests will be issued through email, but it can also be sent out as a letter or initiated through a teleconference. Discipline review letters, they are issued when all quality subdisciplines have substantially completed their assessments. It represent preliminary findings by the discipline upon review of the submitted information to date, and it may or may not represent full supervisory concurrence. The DRL is expected to be issued by the mid-cycle date. For standard application, that's 5 months plus 30 days. For priority applications, that's 4 months plus 30 days. It will also include a request response due date. And again, similar to the IR, it is usually issued through email, but it can also be sent by letter or initiated through teleconference. If no deficiencies are identified by the mid-cycle date, a no comments DRL will be issued. And here I have a very high-level overview of our assessment timeline. Once an application is received in-house, the filing assessment will begin. And while filing is taking place, OPQ will triage the application to identify the IQA review team. At that point, the team will also initiate the kickoff meeting and start the preparation for the application. As soon as filing is found acceptable, the IQA team will begin phase 1 of their assessment. And during this phase, the first IR can be issued as early as when filing is found acceptable. At around the midpoint of the review cycle, all quality subdisciplines should have substantially completed their assessment, and any comments or deficiencies identified up to that point will be issued through the DRL. Once the applicant submits the response to the DRL, the IQA team will begin phase 2 of their assessment, and during this phase, additional IRs may be issued on a rolling basis until it is no longer feasible. At around 30 days before the GDUFA date, the IQA team will finalize their review, and OPQ will provide an overall quality recommendation to OGD to take action. And OGD, by the GDUFA date, will either issue a CR letter, an approval, or a tentative approval. So what is the impact? Assessments of ANDAs will begin earlier in the review cycle. Prior to GDUFA 2, the OPQ would triage the application and assemble the IQA team and have the kickoff meeting only after the application has been found acceptable. By initiating this process much earlier on in the review cycle, the review team is able to provide feedback on the applicant's submission at around the midpoint of the assessment period, and the applicants will also have an opportunity to resolve issues within the same cycle. The overall concept here is to improve assessment efficiency and to reduce review cycles to hopefully get generics to market faster. What can industry do to assist? Probably the most important thing that we've been hearing at this conference is it's very important for industry to submit high-quality submissions at the start. Responses to the IR and the DRL should be submitted completely and promptly with it by the requested due date. Unsolicited information should not be included in these responses. If any update that is needed to be made to your application, please contact the RBPM directly. And applicants can learn from previous requests so that they have a better understanding of what the IQA team is looking for during their assessment. Other important points to consider: the RBPM can be contacted directly for all quality-related questions. Please continue to use the OGD RPM as the point of contact for overall application status and other inquiries. Be aware of the IR and DRL response deadlines and include only the requested information when responding. Please note that additional unsolicited information may impact assessment time and goal dates, and correctly code all your submission amendments to ensure that accurate triage and goal dates are applied. That's all I have for today. Thank you for your attention.
I think I did this right. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. So the belief is that 55% of communication is body language, and 38% is tone of voice, and only 7% is the actual word. Well, I'm here today to talk to you about that 7%, specifically about the application communication between industry and FDA, and how we can work together to communicate more effectively in a meaningful way. So with that, I'm going to start with roles and responsibility. You might receive different type of communication from different type of project manager. So who are we and what do we really do? So there is the OGD RPM. Like myself, the RPM manage the entire ANDA. So they are your point of contact for all review status updates. And the discipline PMs, an example would be the RBPM, or the Regulatory Business Process Manager from OPQ, or the labeling discipline PM. So the discipline PM is responsible for issuing the discipline review letters, or the DRLs, or the IRs, or information requests. They are your point of contact for all questions related to your DRLs and IR only. So as a reminder, like Jen said, all the other ANDA-related inquiries will still go to the OGD RPM. Next, I'm going to go over some of the changes in GDUFA 2, specifically the review status updates, which is covered under Section 2B, number 10 of the commitment letter. Also, the anticipated missed goal date and the informal notification of major deficiency. So talk about review status update. We have come a long way since the beginning of GDUFA 1. So at the beginning, the RPM would provide a status update of please call back in 3 months, to now providing a detailed status update for all the discipline. And even though providing status update was just a courtesy, we understand it's important for planning purposes, and that's why it's been added to the GDUFA 2 program. Also, under GDUFA 2, there are specific RPM touch points in which, at a certain time frame, you would get a communication from the RPM. So who's responsible for status update? So FDA can only communicate with the authorized representative on your 356H. We want to make sure or ensure confidentiality for each applicant. So therefore, we strongly encourage you to update the contact information on your 356H. Also, when the RPM receive a status update inquiry, they would try to respond to your request within 2 business days. Keep in mind, a response would just be an acknowledgement of your call or email, while they have to reach out to a different group of the discipline review to obtain more detailed information. So what are the RPM touch points? When your ANDA is submitted, and after it's been acceptable for review, you will receive a filing acknowledgement letter. After that, you will receive an introductory call from the assigned RPM. At any point, if the ANDA was reassigned to a new RPM, that new RPM will also call the authorized representative to introduce him or herself. So you know that that person will be your point of contact for all review status update. Throughout the review process, the RPM will also provide status update to let you know whether your application is on track or not. You also receive notification when an action is coming. and when your ANDA has been entered the clearance phase. So to reflect some of these changes and the GDUFA 2 commitment letter, FDA has also issued a new communication map. It was issued on October 6, 2017, and the map 5200.12. It is called Communicating Abbreviated New Drug Application Review Status Updates with Industry. So this will be a good resource for you to see what are the changes with communication. All the communication that the RPM get, including incoming or outgoing, will be documented and logged. So these communications are also accessible to all senior management. So in case if there's an inquiry made to our senior management, they will be able to look up the history of all the communication between you and the RPM to better help you understand the situation. We will also evaluate the communications to make sure that the status update requests do not impede the RPM workload or progress of the other ANDAs. And we want to see if the requests are also value added. Another type of communication you might get from the RPM is when FDA learned that the goal date may be missed. In that situation, the RPM will reach out to the authorized agent and notify them of the delay. If available, the RPM will provide a general nature of the delay and the anticipated or the pending discipline. Also, if available, the RPM will provide an estimated time frame for completion. So in a situation when the RPM learned that a major deficiency is likely forthcoming, they will also reach out to the authorized agent to let them know that a major deficiency has been preliminarily identified, and they will let the authorized representative know that an official action will be coming in the near future, and to make sure you review that deficiency when you receive it. So what can you do to help us? Please note that the RPM touchpoints is where you will be contacted regarding your application. If there is a need to get the status update outside of each touchpoint, feel free to reach out to the RPM. However, we do ask that you don't make these requests excessively. This way, it will make sure that the RPM can efficiently manage your application and all the other applications that they're also managing. Other resources, like I mentioned, the map, and if your RPM is out of the office, you can reach out to the covering RPM or the assigned TLs. So I've attached the org chart for the division project management, so you know who to reach out to.